Hi, how are you all doing? All right, so I'm going to share with you a mantra that has worked well for me. I know I'm sure you came here to learn something, and here I am, somebody with a first name Swamy, talking about teaching you all a mantra, right? Let's see how valuable this advice for you is at the end of the presentation. First of all, I want to thank the Uptime Institute for really giving awards for people who are focusing on efficiency and also cleanup, if you will. I was talking to somebody yesterday. It's very important that among the many things IT teams can do, that we not take the decommission for granted, because that's one project that's always reprioritized. So because we're able to focus on efficiency, and because we're able to focus on wanting to take our investments that we're doing on the tech refresh in a smart way, we're able to at least deliver a lot of savings to the business. Not only that, I hope for the next couple of years, we'll continue to be here because we have a good roadmap of what we want to do from an IT efficiency perspective. I don't have a lot of slides. I figured you probably have seen enough slides already. So what I plan to do is to kind of share with you my secret, the mantra that I was talking about, and I'm going to open it up for questions. If you are on the buy side, where you kind of have a data center and are buying data center services, I would like to kind of take questions on what would be the barriers that you would see, especially considering that we have done something that successfully over the years. And then if you're on the sell side, where you're selling services to the buy side, I would like to kind of share with you what are some of the problems through a Q&A that enterprises can use your help. So first and foremost, let me start off saying that it is very good to be in the business of IT. So what do I mean by the business of IT? The fourth largest GDP in the world is IT. And then I was just reading a couple of the economist reports the other day. If you compare the GDP of the US over the last 10 years, the GDP of the IT went up by 14 times more than the GDP of the United States. It's very important that IT business is doing very well. And first of all, congratulations for choosing the IT profession. And among the many years that we already spent in IT, this time is even more relevant, primarily for three reasons. Whenever you look at a business, you will see that there is a revenue-making business, and then you have the product development or app development teams, and then you have people like you and me who are providing infrastructure services. So if you look at what's happening on the business side, there is a lot of innovation under the umbrella of digitization. Every industry is looking at what they need to do to kind of take on this digitization bandwagon. I have a flight right after this presentation. I stopped printing boarding passes like many of you because I get my boarding pass electronically. So every element of everybody's business, they're going through what does digitization means to them. And if you look at the internal technology teams, specifically the product development or application development teams, what they're trying to do is that to take on the digitization agenda on the business side, and then they are going through a transformation on what type of things that they can do by enabling what they provide through APIs. So digitization, API-based economies, and then from an infrastructure perspective, based on what you have heard, it's very clear that software-defined infrastructures and our cloud is the key thing that we can do. So we all know, based on significant amount of the literature that's out there, that cloud is the nirvana. We all need to get there. But the most important question is, how do we get there? That's where my mantra comes in. The primary reason why it is doable now is because if you look at the what's happening in the industry now, which is what I call as the third compute. You have the first generation of the computing, which is mainframe. It is highly efficient. If you look at the number of, whatever metric that you choose from a business perspective, number of transactions processed per tile, or the number of transactions processed per kilowatt consumed, you will see that the mainframe is very, very efficient, but it's very, very expensive. Mainframe is also very disciplined. When it comes to the second compute, which is the client server or distributed compute is actually very economical, or at least it sounds like it's economical to begin with. And it's also very open as opposed to closed technologies like mainframe. But the problem with the open systems is it's wild, wild west. The distributed systems is the wild, wild west. If you ever had an experience where you would go to a grocery stores and then you buy a lot of these 99 cents thing, and in the end you will see that your bill is 70 bucks, that's what the distributed systems is doing to enterprises and the CIOs. Everything you look at it, it's cheap, but overall it's a lot more expensive. To manage it, it's very expensive. To govern it, it's very expensive. So what's happening right now in this third compute, we're able to take the disciplines that were there in the mainframe on how you deploy software, how you manage the mainframe, how do you manage the multi-tenancy, and then applying that to the distributed wild, wild west world where the cost per the tile is a lot less than the cost per tile on the mainframe side. That's what the third compute is, and that's why efficiency is at the forefront of many CIOs' mind. And the confidence that we could do this is there largely because of some of these hyperscale guys, the amount of innovation the Google, the Facebook, the eBays and Amazons are doing, and Netflix, and the amount of that innovation they are giving it away is very amazing. No longer enterprises have to depend on big vendors like IBM and HP. Now they can see what these hyperscale guys are doing, and that's why enterprises now realize that they can achieve that economies of scale, that much efficiency that these hyperscale guys were able to do. If not a PUE of 1.06 like we hear about Facebook, at least you can aspire to have 1.2, 1.3 PUE in an enterprise data center. So when you really look at the third compute, the business is going to ask, what's in it for me? So our response is very, very simple. And if you really look at a meal, a 3-course meal, for appetizer or starters, when you go through this journey, you can tell the business that you are doing significant cost avoid, meaning that if you were to do it the traditional way to accommodate the same amount of compute, you could do it for less or even do it what we have. So that to me is kind of like the appetizer, cost avoids, and business likes that. And the second thing is the main course is you can actually reduce costs, meaning you can look at your run rate, your last year budget, and then you can see how the budget is reducing year over year. And for really the dessert, from a product development perspective, it's agility. The amount of employee productivity that you have for the developers is amazing. And I always say this to my development partners, that I like developers, but I don't want to talk to them. I want to enable them. And somebody said, hey, Swamy, the feeling is mutual. So what is the mantra that works? So first of all, anytime you want to do a transformation like this, you need to have the employee buy-in. So the approach that we're taking is we have a bottom-up initiative. Every single employee in technology and infrastructure needs to know this mantra, that simplify and standardize everything that we do, virtualize and commoditize, and then get to that automated and software-defined environment. So what is software-defined? There's a lot of decisions, a lot of a lot of people have different views about what is software defined, what is cloud. For us, it's really three things. One is it should be self-service. My comment about developers, I don't want to talk to them, I want to enable them. And the second thing is it should be elastic. Whenever a developer wants it, they should get it. Whenever they don't want it, they should be able to release it. And the last one is you pay by the drink, as opposed to having to pay for that equipment that's sitting in the data center and that drawing all the power and so on and so forth. Now that journey, when we gave this mantra, a lot of people ask, okay, that sounds like a good mantra, but what does that actually mean to me? So if you look at any IT shop, they have a compute team, they have a storage team, they have a database team, they have a middleware team and a network team, and then we go to each one of them and the operations team that you have to look at what you're doing and put through the journey. Gone are the days where we go to developers and say, what do you want? Let me take a notepad. Let me get the latest x86 machine. We want to be able to give that McDonald's meal menu option, and then and after we standardize it, standardize all the procedures, we basically virtualize the footprint. We're migrating away from commodity and proprietary infrastructures, and we're investing heavily in automating, and the number of developers that we are hiring in the infrastructure is unprecedented. So if you are a developer, and if you have interest in infrastructure, and if you want to guaranteed career for some time, programming in infrastructure, for infrastructure, it would be a very important career choice. So if you go to the next slide, well, it looks like I had to press it. There we go. So while we have the mantra for all the people in the organization so that they can think about what they can do, you have to support it from a top-down initiative. I think we have heard about top-down support many times, but we have to take a very structured approach of the top-down initiative. The first and foremost is, in IT, whether we like it or not, in order to save money, you need money, right? So what we have done is, in order for you to save money and invest the new money, you need to know where you are spending the current money. So we have, pouring through all the current P&Ls, we have a very good total cost of ownership program that will allow us to tell down to the penny where we are spending it. And then we have agreed on a long-term architecture, this picture of the future. And then we are now aligning everything that we need to do to that long-term architecture, and then with that the total cost of ownership in mind. And if you really look at other things that you need to have to be able to do this, obviously any efficiency has a huge impact on the carbon footprint. We're also bundling that with complete transparency, looking at our availability number, because you cannot sacrifice the availability. And more importantly, we are doing a lot of process reengineering, because you cannot really automate without having the right investments in the process reengineering. So doing all of these 6 things from the top down and asking the employees to think about simplify, standardize, commoditize, and virtualize and automate is allowing us to dig this IT efficiency tunnel from both sides. And we as management team gets to manage so that both of them meet, as opposed to having 2 different tunnels. So what would be from a data center perspective, if we do this, the outcome is, which is proven, you can actually first flatten your power curve, and then you can actually bend it a little bit, and then you can continue to bend it for a while before it goes up again. Based on the innovation that we know that is industrialized today, if we take this approach, you can actually bend the curve for the next 5 to 7 years. And based on some of the things that are happening in the industry, we can actually continue to have that curve continue to go down. So in a nutshell, what I would say is get the employee buy-in with that mantra, and then have the appropriate top-down program. And then as part of the total cost of ownership, because you have to invest to be able to achieve the efficiencies, you have to have what we call as migration factories. So if you're on a proprietary technology, you have to invest in a migration factory, and there's a lot of prior art on how to take a Solaris machine and put it in Linux, how to take a IBM AIX workload and putting in Linux. There is a lot of prior art on how to even take a physical workload that's running on a Linux and how to virtualize them. And you call them as P2V, and now we're talking about P2C, V2C, where physical to cloud, virtual to cloud factories, where we centrally fund these resources to come in. They will convert the code, put it in the cloud, and walk away. And that will definitely result in significant efficiencies. So with that, I'm going to open up for questions that anybody may have.
Bob Culver, Wells Fargo's great presentation.
Thank you, Bob.
Have you found in your study trying to move to cloud, et cetera, significant security challenges, and have you ruled out certain applications and functions from going to the cloud for that reason?
Right. That's a good question, Bob. When I say cloud, when I say software-defined infrastructure, because we are from the financial industry, we are not building it in the public cloud. This is on-premises cloud. And there are two reasons why we prefer the on-prem cloud. The first and foremost, the security, because the data at rest solution is not completely industrialized. When I say data at rest, the data that is sitting on the disk has to be encrypted in a very efficient way. We don't think even though industry may be ready, we are not ready to put our equipment in the cloud. That's number one. And the second reason is we want to be able to build on-prem first, and then we are building it in such a way that it can float to the cloud, then build in the cloud, and if there is a problem like the poodle bug that has happened a couple of months ago, we don't have anything to do to bring it back to our data centers. So we want to build in the data center first and make it as efficient as possible, but have that ability to move the workload if we need to. So our approach is based on the on-prem cloud as opposed to the public cloud.
Hi, great presentation. Two-part question. One is, could you elaborate on the innovation technologies or the steps you took to bend that curve? Just some key points. And the second is, in your organization, which do you prefer, the converged side or the open compute kind of side, or are you looking at both?
Right. So first of all, the secret is that there is not a whole lot of innovation to bend the curve, right? What I did at my previous place is all the things, virtualization has been there for quite some time. What we did is we found out that with some engineering, you can increase the virtual to physical ratio. So when I got in, the virtual to physical ratio was 1:11, 1:15, and over the last 4 years, we were able to fine-tune in my previous place where we went in and tuned it so that when I left my previous company and joined Visa 8 months ago, we were able to increase the physical to virtualization ratios to 1:90. But that requires a lot of engineering. And what you will realize, and I saw a lot of presentations about efficiency, what you realize in many enterprises is if you take the virtual workload, but you still put a lot of agents on it, and every agent, every vendor will tell you, oh, this agent will only take like 1% of the CPU, and you add 10 VMs on a physical machine, and they all take 1% of the CPU, and now you're consuming. So we did a lot of fine-tuning that allowed us to increase the multiplexing. So that's one thing that we did. But what virtualization does is what I call as space division multiplexing. If some of you are engineers, you know that there's space division multiplexing, meaning you take the space and you divide it. That's what virtualization is. With some of the innovation that's happening with the way we could do workload management with on-prem cloud, we could do time division multiplexing. So in the morning when we do reports, you can actually generate a lot more reporting engines, and then generate the reports for the PDF statements. And then when market opens, you can reroute them to trading engines, and when the market closes, you could reroute the same infrastructure for clearing and settlement. So that's the type of space division multiplexing that we can do if you automate your workload.
So the description here talks about what you did with decommissioning. Can you talk a little bit about how, how the program, the decommissioning program, any automation used, how it is, how you made it more effective? Thanks.
Yeah, the decommissioning is part of that simplified, standardized, virtualized model where we're going in and looking as part of the tech refresh. We would go in and then look at what we can decommission. The economics of scale comes from how you can put a lot many physical instances into virtual and then have a high physical to virtual ratio. And then the really, that's, the technology is the easy part. The difficult part is doing the data migrations. And business has no time for giving us the change windows. That's where the top-down help comes in, is that we made it, we showed them the value of migrating to virtual infrastructure. We showed them the value of migrating away from the old storage arrays, and then they were able to kind of give us the change windows to do that. It was more of a top-down mandate to get away from the old infrastructure on top of the bottom-up initiative.
It's me again. Sorry. The second part of my question was, do you guys are you guys more inclined to go to the converged infrastructure side or the open stack side?
So I don't like converged infrastructure, and the reason why we don't like converged infrastructure is when you buy converged infrastructure where storage and compute is in the same box, you're going to get into defragmentation issues where you will have less compute, but you have more storage, and now you're buying another module or another converged infrastructure just for storage, and now you're going to have very asymmetric environment. So we like a la carte open model where the compute and storage and network are separate, and then we can add as much as we want to based on our ability to, based on our capacity needs. Good, excellent. Well, with that, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to us, and then we'll see you at the next time. Do we have any more questions, or are we done?
I think we're wrapped up.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.